Thank you. With the caveat that this is, of course, only a draft which has been leaked, I think the most striking thing about it is that it demonstrates very clearly that the promises to the fishing community and to the public that were made by the Leave campaign in the referendum and by some Brexit supporters who are now ministers in the British government will simply not happen. Their basic message was to say that British fishers will be able to take a bigger share of the catch and keep on exporting as now to the rest of Europe. Neither looks as though it's likely to happen to any significant degree. To take the first point on a big increase in Britain's share of the catch and changes to the way it's managed, well, the White Paper does recognise that stocks have to be managed jointly and that there's a legal obligation to do so. It says, and I quote, "We will work with the European Union and Norway to," it says, "update the principle of relative stability." In other words, it recognises the principle of relative stability, which has been the basis on which fishing shares have been allocated all these years. It hopes to negotiate an adaptation to that. But it also says UK policy will use the same scientific advice as now, as Ricardo pointed out. It will follow the principle of MSY. It will respect the multilateral environmental and biodiversity agreements that exist at international level. It will keep the discard ban. Britain will join the relevant RFMOs. And it even says, and I quote, "We will maintain EU regulations on managing the impact of fishing on the marine environment." So in terms of Britain's management of the fishing effort and shares, it's not going to be as different as some people had suggested during the referendum campaign. On the other side of the equation, that we will keep on selling just as now to the rest of the European Union, let me remind you that this government's policy is to leave not just the European Union, but the customs union and the single market with its common rules and phytosanitary standards and all the rest of it. That will have dramatic consequences on fish exports from the United Kingdom. And let me remind you that 80% of the fish landed in the UK is exported, largely to the rest of Europe. And the idea that there could be hold-ups, controls, extra bureaucracy, extra paperwork involved in that because of being outside of a customs union, even with zero tariffs, or with divergent regulations and phytosanitary standards, etc., is actually quite dramatic if the government sticks to its current policy of leaving the customs union and the single market. And that's not even to mention the possibility of a link between those two issues, how the rest of Europe might react if the British government went further than it says now in restricting and taking unilateral decisions on its share of the shared stocks at least within its own waters. On top of that, you have some remarkable things in the White Paper. We're going to support the introduction of modern technology. Is that electronic pulse fishing, I wonder? It says Britain will withdraw from the 1964 London Fisheries Convention on the access to the waters, the very close inshore waters, even for Ireland. What is the effect of that on the Northern Ireland dimension of the Brexit negotiations? And I could go on, but I see my time is up, so I'll stop just there. Thank you.